I guess about time we get started. I want to tell you to start with about this young fellow that went to the School of Divinity. He graduated with high marks and so forth. He was assigned a church out a little small western town. It was in the winter, and the kind of awful snowstorm. He had got all grim and fire for the first round. He was just one cowboy showed up. And he says, "Cowboy, you think I ought to go ahead with this?" "Well," the cowboy says, "I'll tell you. If I was taking a load of hay out of cattle and only one cow showed up, give us a penny." So that minister went on for about an hour and a half. Oh boy, he was ranting and raving. Finally he stopped. He says, "What do you think of it?" "Well," he says, "I'll tell you, Reverend. I mentioned the fact that I think I'd give that cow some hay, but I don't think I'd give her the whole damn load." So we will try to use a whole medium here because there is an awful lot to this. And I do want to say that I don't mean this facetiously, but you've got to be a pretty good dowser to pick this stuff up. You have to ask this question in just the right way to get a lot of this. And we learned this the hard way, believe me. We've been working on this for roughly 3 years and a half. And we have got rid of migraine headaches for about 130 people. Some of them had it for 25 years or more, very bad ones. And we seem to have debated that away. And we have got around 600 houses now that we have cleared from this different types of. We prefer to call this radiation. You can call it noxious rays, geopathic zones, and bad energy. Look, it's just about one and the same. We like to call it bad radiation because when this, it might be 6 feet wide out there, but when this comes through the building, some of this will spread. This particular one isn't a wide one. It will spread about 40 feet wide and penetrate about 80 feet that way. Oh, see, very, very common. But when these things hit, they spread out in these homes or buildings. Some homes 65 feet wide and will go up 55, 60 stories high, and they'll penetrate 100 and 110 feet long. And this is something that it took a lot of doing to find out about where this stuff was coming from. And briefly, I want to tell you exactly how I discovered it. About 3.5 years ago, my next door neighbor had a generation of two generations of cancer. After they passed away, there was a young family moved in. They had a little girl. She developed respiratory trouble almost immediately as she moved in. I diverted some bad energy out, like I always had, gone out, and just found a place to divert. We didn't know where it's coming from or anything else. She began to feel quite a bit better. And a month later, probably, I was standing over front of their house. They was away working and so forth. And I asked the question, is there anything going into this house, or in this house, that would cause any problems for the occupants? And I said, no. Then I asked the question, is there anything unknown to man to this point going into this house? Yes, right off quick. Now this is not crazy. You have to find some of these things. And believe me, you've got to know what you're doing to do it oftentimes to locate it. Well, immediately after I got that answer, I was standing by the house here, and I asked the question whether it went out or not. I said, where is it? And it pointed right over here. Then I followed down and got to this one. This is created by electricity. And you swear there was a cable run right in and spread out in here, and then it runs over and it goes back on the ground again. This has a supplier, we call it, and a receiver. This runs right around. When you're walking over this, you'll find somebody to bury a 6-inch cable under it. And I want Roland to describe some of these, so I just briefly go over this. Anyway, I be sure, we went out and got this, and about 2 weeks later, Rollie discovered the idea that this thing had another one over here that was connected here. Well, we got chasing around, it's connected right around. So we built it here by asking for a diversion point. Now, this one here, we have found in about 94% of the so-called cancer houses. By that I mean that may have been 2 generations of cancer or even more. And I have had recently, within the last year, a couple of friends, one of them was 43, and the other one I think was 46, died very young. And he and I have chased this back from the day they were born, that house had this, the next house had this, and they had lived under these things all this time. Now, I'm not here to tell you by a long shot that this is causing cancer. We don't know. But you know, it's kind of strange that all these houses seem to have this for these people that do have this cancer. You can't help but wonder whether there is a connection. Rollie, you take over just a bit now, put these things for you. They some of these are very, very similar. Oh, you do? Okay. You'll note that on all of these will be a P-O. That means potency, or strength, or the danger of it, any way you want to put it. We count this by using from 1 to 20, 20 being very harmful. And most of these will exceed by double, some of them 4 times, what you would get to be real, real harmful. So they'll give you some idea on what it's doing to people, causing sleeplessness and lameness and the whole thing.
Okay, this is what we call the Dwin and Rollie bad radiation. This one will run about 12 foot in diameter, has 5 water veins with 2 running over it. Now, we found out that these veins have got to be close together. If they're far apart, they don't have much problem. Very little problem. And many times, these veins are very sharp and long, too. Kind of crazy.
Okay, you all right now?
This is what we call the unknown radiation. Unknown noxious rays, I should say. This is 22 feet deep. And 12 foot in diameter. This has five veins with one parallel and 4 veins the other way, opposite direction. This is radon. Radon is probably one of the biggest messes that we have found that people have got taken in by. Usually you find it in basements that may go up 4 or 5 feet high. You spend a lot of money to get rid of it. We take our buyer and get rid of it, and it's gone. And we've proved this by having tested it ourselves. We've even taken it out of water with our diversion method, and found no problem at all.
This would be, when you hunt for it, it's about this wide, stands about this high, and it invariably goes in the side of the house. It goes right through it.
The problem is he doesn't run terribly high, and usually there's water a lot of people's times.
Are you going to talk about how you diverted it?
We will.
Yeah, we can, yeah. This here is the cross water veins. Cross water veins close together cause a lot of problems with people sleeping or living or working over them. Plus, we have never found a tree yet that hit the lightning that didn't have 2 cross water. Now, these veins are fairly close together. And also, houses hit the lightning. You check on some of that. You'll find cross water. We just had one the other day, we did.
I would like to mention that we had a well that we spent a lot of time with. It was very difficult to find any decent water in this particular spot. And it was going very well. The lightning struck it about 4 weeks ago. And to show you across water being, that particular thing had the well here with a feed vein here, a feed vein here. After the lightning had struck it, these veins went over, this one went over. So we twisted those around and turned them back in, and got them going back in the well, and it was rising up. All of a sudden we lost it. It damaged down at the bottom. This well, by the way, is 26 feet deep. It's a dark well. And it had damaged that. Well, we mentally packed that down here.
We tried every way imaginable to stop that water.
All at once, the cloud, yeah, went up an inch yesterday. Well, good God, an inch is, in a 4-foot well, is about 20 gallons. It's 97 gallons a foot. But they, next day, go up an inch. So pretty soon, it was backing up in this vein, went right up here. So we converted the thing back in. And the next thing we know, the damn thing had opened up again and gone here. So it stands right now, they're getting about 1.5 inches, 2 inches a day, which they can live with, but it's very, very hard to get this stuff once the lightning has shook it up.
Any questions as you go along, Hal?
Yeah, how is the potency 41
1 to 20, with 20 being the highest, it's about double.
We didn't hear the question back there,
What
Rollie.
is the potency? If you want to know why the potency was 41, we used 1 to 20.
That speaker is not working, Rollie.
Isn't it?
No.
Bring that mic over to you.
You don't put it on your fly, you put it on your head. I have to tell my father what to do.
Well, this is supposed to be on the machine too, isn't it? Yeah. I guess. Okay, 1 to 20, with 20 being the highest, we go up to 40, 41, and then sometimes we walk over 100 on some of these things. But some of these are real, real bad. Real bad. Okay, anybody else?
We would count this with your dowsing rod like you'd count the depth or distance or anything. We'll show you.
This one here is a 51 on the potency side. This is all water. 5 veins going in one direction and 1 vein going over. So round will come up usually in a round vortex affair. We find quite a few vortexes, water causing the problems. This one here is zinc. This is usually in the range of 65 feet deep. We find it's dry, there's no water, there's nothing connected with it. The people over here see this in my regular way. Oh, how the devil do we do that so everybody can see?
Well, if we lower it, they can't see it.
Now, let me move this over. How about that? Why didn't you tell me before? I'm not too hard to get along with. You're not maybe, but I'm not. This one, we find the potency about 46. And as I say, it's bone dry. Because what we do on these things, we'll show you later, we get at the grading points and generally take care of it. Now this one here is lead or copper, and we find this sometimes. This is a vortex affair. Runs usually, we find around 102 feet, and the potency of this runs up 54. This is another vortex affair. This has 5 water veins with 1 going over it, and the potency is 40. And these veins, of course, would be fairly close together.
Is there any
might have been different.
Policy is probably different as well.
While you're asking that question, I neglected to tell you that first one I showed you was dry, no water control. At full moon, those vortexes go down around 7,500 feet. In between moons, they'll come back to about 3,000, 3,500. When it's down 7,500 feet, there's a heat point about 2,200 degrees. And when it's regular, it comes back to only about 350. We asked every question in the book what was causing this, and the only answer we ever got was uranium. We've asked everything. Uranium, boom, you get an answer yes.
And another strange thing, we were up on a house that had AMS once, clearing it, and when we don't agree with something wrong, well, we're not agreeing with it now. Find out that I was standing right on the vortex. I couldn't doubt, so I went to the devil and I started asking should I do that. And the minute I stepped off, I was all right. Okay, this one here was a vortex. This is the one I'm going to, yeah, this was lead and zinc. I did that. This was straight zinc with a non-long. Find these, a lot of these will be different in the shapes. It doesn't matter too much as far as the conversion goes. We'll get into that later. But if you are interested, you can trace these things out and find by yourself. This is about 260 feet deep, and the potency of this was done about 78. This is dry, over the way. This is zinc. This vortex here was 267 feet, potency of 42, and this has got 6 water veins with 2 crossing over. It runs about 267 feet deep.
The strange part about all of these water veins, they're only about 12 feet long. You can't find a trace of anything feeding it or going from it. And when we divert these gulls, disappear. Some of these have a life of 1 month, some of them 3 months, and I left some in my, it went through the garden. The tail end was toward the house, so it wasn't affecting the house. I left it there, I think it was 7 weeks. And I had some pepper plants out there, and it killed the leaves right up just like this. And after that's gone, within a week, they started straightening out again. These things damage flowers and all kinds of vegetation.
Yeah, we get into that. We can get into that a little bit later too. There's several other things that we have found as far as, you said, vegetation. This one here is a vortex, 302 feet. It's got 50 on the potency. Cause for the water, this was 9 water veins, 8 over 1. So 303 feet deep. They're very strange. As you saying, when you make the diversions, you lose them like the vortex, and some of them you always seem to get a counterclockwise clue to divert them that way, and they just seem to go right into the vortex and disappear.
Yeah, the question, please.
You say there are 9 water veins. What width are you talking about?
What width?
Yeah, the total width of the combination.
Well, it would depend. It would depend.
No,
they're not off the line.
Most of these water veins, when we've got, oftentimes we have 30 veins. We'll have perhaps 28, these might be running parallel, 28 one way, 2 the other. And they would never exceed 4 feet in total width. They're right tight together. That's when they're
Very, very narrow.
When your veins are running this close together, they really got a lot of horsepower. But when they're up 10, 12 feet, you don't get much reaction from them. And every one of these lightning jobbies, they have been down about 3 or 4 inches.
Sir, what is your average depth?
It varies.
Varies all over.
The first one there would go down 7,500 feet, but these, a lot of them about 150, 180. And we do have one he's going to come up to, we call the buttonhole type, that will go from 200 to 1,000 feet.
See, this one here got 11 water veins. 902. We've been finding all kinds of different things. In fact, we've got, I think we've got 2 others that we don't have on this list that we've found. So this is a vortex 393 feet, the 42
There's 40 on it.
potency.
There's 40 on it.
Oh, we got 40? You add it on. There's another 11 veins. 11 veins, 9 in the same depth. Running parallel.
Yes.
Yeah, running parallel, close together.
But they wouldn't be in the crowd at that chair.
This
is the funny part of it, that we just don't understand. We don't find a dome feed them or anything. It's got to be coming direct right out. Down below.
The main thing is what we're after is results. Actually, in the long run, we really can't tell them. So actually, I guess we really don't care as long as we solve the problem.
Did I hear you say that you don't do something that is short life and disappear in the rain?
They seem to when we make our diversions.
Or when you have to.
Yeah.
Yes, but if you leave them and don't develop them, they have a life and will disappear. That's what I said, that I let one disappear, and it started these pepper plants to fill up so that I let it disappear on its own, and I think it was 6 or 7 weeks, and it took right off one day.
We
No
had
more water mains, no nothing.
So do they all have a relatively short life, or they?
Some do and some don't. That first one I showed you, mine go, we traced them back 20 years or more, 25 years. But a lot of these, the one he's working on right there now, I'm guessing probably would be over 8-10 months.
We have a vortex out there in my yard, like he said, about the same thing.
About 8-9 months.
The Dow Delta, it would disintegrate or go within 30 days, 31 or 2 days. So we checked it right to the day, and like it disappeared. It's gone. This is a vortex 467 feet for 52. The potency on this is 11 water veins.
They all have certain characteristics. It does, they look very repetitious, but they're all a little different.
This one here has got 503 feet, and this got 6 water veins running parallel. This vortex here is 628 feet. We're talking about the deep ones. This is 10 water veins, 9 and 1 coming in the opposite direction. We seem to get out quite an influx, really. So here we go to 703 feet, 14 veins, 11 over 3. There's an 803 there with 14 water veins. That's 11 over 3 too. With 84 potency, that's climbing up a little bit. With 903 with 93 potency. And this has got 20 veins. Okay, another question. Yeah.
Where do you find all of these veins? You go looking for them in a certain area?
Well, what happens is you may complain to us that you're not sleeping, or your wife isn't sleeping, or your girlfriend isn't sleeping, or something. You don't have any of those. That's be you. Okay?
Okay, good.
Okay, you got a problem, so then we check the house
Maybe I was wrong too.
to see where the problem is. And then we wanted to get into it, but then we could check out to see exactly what it was. No, we don't go around the country looking for these things. No, we can find enough trouble without that.
We get quite a lot of calls.
Yeah.
Are all these veins usually fed from below? Do you find that in all? Are they all fed from the vortex?
They're not always vortex form. No, a lot of them are, though. Many of them are. Occasionally, on very, very rare occasions, we will find, in fact, we can verify this, that one came out of the ground and went up and hit into a 5-story tile, isn't it?
Yes.
Very, very rarely we find that, but sometimes we do. When we're really stumped sometimes and ask those questions. I got that from you. Remember you told me about that, how you chased up the side of the building? Well, they were having big problems with this building. In fact, they were going to tear it down, weren't they?
I don't know how they did it.
Well, no, they were going to.
I know there's still some heavy stuff going on over there.
Yeah, but not in that building. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. looking at it from across the river.
Is that right? Because it was all clear the day I was there. And I had to think that day I was down there, what you had told me. He was in the hospital, he couldn't go. And I had to think about you telling me climbing a ladder and tracing this right up over a house when they used the rebar. So then I asked the question, is there something hidden at this story? And I said, yes. Sure enough, there it was. Thanks, God.
If they can disappear, it would seem that they can appear suddenly also. Is that a correct statement?
They can, yes, they can at times. And we can clear houses and we play other people can complain and be a new one.
This has been one of the things that, believe me, I have spent hours and hours and hours on this, trying to neutralize this. He and I have had every one of these come into the house. And believe me, we would get 2 or 3 a week. Because they used to kid us that the Almighty was after us, and apparently it got up with us. And we get rid of it, something different come in. The same thing didn't come in, or it never come in the same spot, but more with it, different type. So we worked and worked and worked to neutralize this. And it's a very strange thing. You ask, we'll divert this today, and you ask the question, can we neutralize this now? No, what day? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we can do it. Usually 2 to 3 days ahead. It don't do a bit of good to do it right now. Believe me, I've experimented with this thing to no end. Not only my own house, but other houses. But you do as it tells you to do. And then when you go to neutralize this, you have this, make a little drawing, rectangular drawing, and how many places can I neutralize this? 2. How many should I use? 1. I always ask. Then ask, where is the spot to neutralize this? You follow around with a pendulum, a rod, or whatever, and it'll tell you. And then you go out and ask for the diversion point, and tap the thing, and ask which direction should I tap this down to the bottom, so it'll never bother anybody again. And it'll tell you. You just tap it. Now, we're going on to, what, 15 or 16 weeks? I think it's 15 weeks.
Yeah.
That I'm going on. Thank goodness we haven't had any repeats. Now, as I say, we've getting 2 or 3 a week, and we've tried all kinds of methods on this diversion. And you can wire these houses, like you used to tell about, leave it open and so forth. Don't mean a thing. It'll hop right over there. But get out there with an iron bar. We do it remotely quite a bit, to be honest with you. We have done it, I've done it out of Carl's house in California, from my home in Portland. And we've done it all over the country, as I said. And successfully. Any other questions?
Do you think the main source of most of these is uranium underground?
No. We don't know what it is. It's apparently 95% of these water connected. 95%.
And you remove the base.
A big part.
And you remove the water base.
Well, we move them when we divert these. They just go, disappear.
See, we have to get our point of diversion on this particular, whatever the particular problem is. We ask for our very best point of diversion, and then we're asked to ask if there is another, if we should make another one. Now, everything we do with $1,000. We don't second guess anything. Everything. Even the direction that we divert it. No, I mean, we don't just guess as we go along.
I'm surprised that no one has asked where these things go when we divert them.
We don't know.
This was quite a bothersome question. And I spent quite a bit of time on this, too. When I diverted this, I'd start following. Because if I divert it off right angle, this stuff takes right off. Whether it be radar or whatever. And I followed this, and almost all of these, you don't go over 150 to 200 feet, and you can't pick it up anymore. Disintegrate. You always program yourself, you want this to go where it isn't going to harm anybody or anything again. Then, I don't know if that's being superstitious, but boy, it works. We've always programmed ourselves to do this.
As long as it works, we'll change it. No.
Any more questions?
One here.
Yes.
I'm confused
about the vortex. Are you seeing the vortex is on the surface, or is it below? Which is the top and which is the bottom in your pictures?
Well, we'll pick up the vortex, and then you usually get a little line like running out of it, and then when it hits the building, it spreads. In fact, we got so many people, it's going to be kind of hard. We do have one coming in. We got two coming in this building. So we'll get a chance to show you.
This whole building is loaded,
Should be.
and where it penetrates the building is right in between those two things. I'll show you where the penetration is over there, from here, so you can see. Right there. This is where I'm coming in, right here. Outside, if we were to go out there, there'll be, we call this the old sideline. It's the worst one we have. This will put out a potency of around 115 to 20. And we've had lots and lots of complaints in industrial buildings with people with respiratory trouble, headache, and so forth. And this is the culprit, usually. And we go divert that away, and it clears them up. And we've done a health center or two, and cleared them up. And the most discouraging thing in the world is our ability to do this and have them spend $600,000 for school that I'll guarantee he and I could clear up in an hour. And they won't listen. We've talked to them. But anyways, this stuff is potent. And we will divert this. It's very difficult to take your people out. So we're going to divert this in here, from out there.
So, what is it? Is it gas or radon?
We don't know what it is. This radar.
You want to go down?
Yes, let's get rid of it. Not in here. And why do you call it sidewalk? What? There's the strength of it. We always use, that's a country term. If you ever have cows and shovel, you know what? You always use the old sidewinder. And that was a country term. It's rugged, harmful, and so forth.
Rollie, how do you know that after you clear this, that perhaps the people themselves are contributing to reestablish this? Maybe it's coming from people.
Well, we never have found that yet. No, we never have. They've usually, when they don't straighten out, we've gone back and checked where they work, and we usually find a problem there. But we never have found with the people themselves, no.
Now, as he was walking there, he was breathing very hard, and it was as though he was tuning into it, and he was resonating to that. Is that a phenomenon?
He's just out of breath or something. You come down and you've been breathing hard, and you wonder if that was affecting you.
Hey, when you get to be 81 years old, you'll get a hot cough.
Generally, if I was standing out there on that side on there, I probably couldn't die. It's not too bad right in here now, more or less. If I was out there, I'd get a no when I asked what should be done.
All right, this is the chair. You can stay away. Okay? And Rollie is going to tell me when we get to the culprit.
Right there.
Okay? This is it right here. Now, when this hits this building, this will spread, this particular thing, at least 65 feet, and it'll go right through this. It's starting just about right there. You have one more. All right?
You want the resin point? You
No,
want
no, I got one other light coming in here.
Okay. Right there.
I can feel this. All right? This one here is what we would call a button, right?
Yeah.
see by me. The real culprit, right here. This one is bad, this one wasn't spread over the whole thing in here. So what we do, okay, give me a diversion point.
Right there.
All right, should I hit it the right or the left?
Let's see.
We are making believe that we're standing over it right out there.
It goes up to your right.
Then we grab this back and we knock it up there. All right, let's have this.
Right there.
All right, I'm going out, should I hit it the left or the right?
Right.
Okay. Now, see if you can pick this up now. It may not be clear just yet.
I can't go. I'm tired of it.
Oh, you're right. Good.
It hasn't fully cleared, but you should be into it where it is. That little, sometimes it takes up to 48 hours to get rid of this stuff, you know.
It's out now as far as picking it up.
Yeah.
And I
It's
don't,
not accurate anyway.
no, it isn't active anymore.
What we did once here, we was up in Denver there, and we was listening to a lecture. There was a lady going to sleep in front. I think Terry Ross was lecturing, I think. We got fooling around, found out that there was one of those energy lines going under her. And we meant to move it. She came right awake. And we threatened Terry, he says, "Dear after you give a lecture, we're going to move a line and put all these people to sleep." Okay, any questions as far as we've gone?
Go ahead. Would you go over your line of questions, as far as removing the relation? You first find it where it's coming in, then you have to find out if there's two, or three, or...
Well, we usually have one diversion point. That's generally all we ever need.
You just need one.
Yeah.
And that will clear.
Usually it does. As I say, it's a situation where we had these negatives and positives to do solve before, we might make more than one diversion if the house is, real bad. Now, we'll be getting into some more of this anyway. We should be showing you some more.
I just wanted to remark that I felt the air getting a little lighter, and it's a little easier to take a deep breath here
Good.
after you clear.
Sure.
You better hang on to that chair there, kid. You might float out of here.
Just got up the aisle, about the second, between the second and third pew, when went like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's hot.
Good.
Rollie, I don't know if people back in this area could see Dwin when he was diverting due to the fact that he was standing in front of it. So he would stand on the other side and re-show them so people on this side could see how he diverted all the time.
Okay. Some of you that didn't see, why don't you holler?
Okay. What we did, this is the church. This was where the culprit's coming in, over here on this side. Now you see this so far? Yes. Okay. This was the one we call the old sideline. So while I'm right here, Rollie gave me a diversion point. Right here. Actually, I was placing myself right outdoors by this place in the proper spot of diversion. And I took a bar and tapped it down just a little. And then I asked him, what direction do I hit the bottom of that bar to get rid of this so I won't harm anybody or anything again? He said to the right. So there it went. You get that so far? Yes. Okay. Now we had another one that's coming in right under that clock area, right back there. And again, he gave me a diversion point here, and he said, again, I was standing over there, go to the right. So I went to the right here. Now that kills this whole deal. I know it sounds foolish and simple and so forth, but believe me, it works. We've had people with 30 years of very, very bad migraine headaches. There was 2 women I think I've had to give their jobs up. And for now, 2.5 years, 3 years, been perfect. We've had people that were nervous, irritable, and you might say, damn ugly. We've got calls. The doctor sent us to one of these women. She knew we was coming when we drove up in front of the house. She come out, I hate this damn house. That husband of mine, I wish he'd go away, stay, never come back. And she was ranting, raving. I said, Rollie, ain't she a sweet little thing? There was 3 different things going into her house. I believe one of them was sidelined. There was what we call a buttonhole, and it was across Wallaby. We knocked all those out, and you know the most awful thing we have in this whole deal, we help these people, and they never tell us, give us any results. By golly, this woman called in about 10 days, said, hey, I don't know what you've done to this house. I love it. The old man and I are getting along fine. My headaches are gone, and I just called and I thank you. Now, we had another woman call, said she shacking up with this guy. Boy, said, I love it. But there's one problem. He beats me up about twice a month. And I said, well, that's probably a pretty good mate you got. Well, anyway, she wanted to know if there was anything possibly in the house. We had energy, radiation, or whatever you want to call it, noxious rays or whatever. It was loaded. We got rid of it, and 3 months later she called and said, everything's been fine. Now, I don't guarantee that we can get normally, I would advise if her wife was ugly, kick her out. But if you find that's going to be too expensive, we might take a crack at getting rid of this bed. That's your
You do this alone.
I
You do
bet.
this without working with you.
With him?
Or anybody. To do it personally, individually, do what you just did. Sort of map the bird alone.
Oh, sure, I have to, a lot.
We go through it.
Hey, we get people call us from California, Midwest, and everything else. And I have to do this with a pendulum oftentimes right over the phone.
How do you hold the Yazoo rod and your pen at the same time?
In what?
How do you hold the Yazoo rod and the pen at the same time?
No, just
hold the pen.
You take the pendulum. What you do, you ask the party, unless I'm on my phone that I can snap and sit there and work with both hands, which I do have. But normally, just a regular phone, I ask them, okay, wait a minute. They ask a question, and I've got this rectangular drawing, that's a house, and I ask a question with a rod, how many things going in there? 2, okay. Is it in the front? Left side? Yeah. And midway? Yes. So you make a mark. And how about it's on the rear? In the middle? No. Near the left rear corner? No. Right rear corner? Yes. You make a mark there. Now you've got the thing started. So then you usually ask the person perhaps some other question. What, you have headaches? You don't sleep? Or what's the matter with you? And they'll tell you. Not that it's necessary to know that. But anyway, when you do know that, you just got an inkling that perhaps you're going to be able to help them. Because you've had so much success with other people. At least that's the way I feel about it, I'm sure over that. Anyway, we would ask a question with a pendulum right there, and I say to him, you want me to try to get rid of this now? And he'd say, yeah. So I ask for a divergent point out here, and knock it the direction that it said, just with a pen right there. And this other, the same way. You do this right over the phone.
Okay, so you don't actually have to physically use a steel bar.
No. No. It works best, but let me tell you something. If you're going to go out and collect a few bucks, don't do it on a paper at home. You ain't going to get very fat collection. You should go out and do it physically. We do this a lot. We go out and do it physically. And especially if we're the bed and water veins, Orion or something like that, we do it physically. But you can do this remotely. Very successful. Yes?
I'm curious as to whether you've had experience with having done a diversion and have it fail and have a recurrence of what was there before.
I'll answer that this way. You should be a top quality dowser to do this.
You should be top quality.
You should be able to douse water, and douse house locations for their best living conditions, all those different things. We are subjected to when we go out oftentimes water dousing, we are asked to lay their house out. Whether it lays this way, or whatever, when they're going to be the most comfortable in it.
And you don't, if you do it right, there are no failures. You don't
Right.
have a recurrence.
That's right. Now, we have, I'm not going to tell you here that we haven't had reoccurrences, because we have. He and I have had every cussed one of them. But, as I told you before, since we've started neutralizing with this method, we seem to be doing pretty good. We don't know what we're doing any more than you do. But we're just, we have fiddled around so long with this, and this seemed to be the thing that popped in my head one day that, hey, maybe you got to give this day or two or three. And I asked that question, come right up, yes. And there was one particular one I think I did on a Sunday, and I said, can I do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Yes, you could do it. Before that, it would have no effect. Don't ask me why, I don't know. We don't know what this stuff is. You can't smell it, you can't see it, but we do know very definitely over the 600 odd houses that we have cleared and helped these people, hey, it is not a coincidence. Yes?
What happens to the water after you diverted it?
We don't know. When we divert this, the water bank, number one, wouldn't be a lot, not be 5 ahead of you. It might be 30 of them, might be 5. When we knock this thing, probably it might be off there. Within a couple of minutes, that whole thing has disappeared. And you try and trace that. I know he has, I have, and we've had others. Terry Ross is an extremely good dowser. I was in Philadelphia last fall, and I showed him how to do this. And he's done it with people in New Zealand, Hawaii. He was a friend of his in Hawaii, that has had migraines, and he's 60 years old, had them since he's 16 years old, and spent thousands of dollars trying to get rid of them. And he diverted this on a piece of paper in Philadelphia, and the guy hasn't had any headaches since. And this is probably 6 or 7 months ago. And he had a very good doctor friend. She was a medical doctor, and she had severe migraines. And I said to him, I said, let's get rid of that. And we did while I was there in Philadelphia, unbeknown to her. And Terry said that he talked with her a month later, and said, hey, she hadn't had any headaches for about a month. This guy couldn't understand it. So we know this works. Carl has helped his wife out at his place. And the only thing is when he goes to hunt for it, he gets a ladder and he gets up on top of the chimney and looks around. But that's California style. Got to have be some tall guy. Any other questions?
Mr. Warren, arthritis too?
Yes.
This is when people have arthritis. Arthritis? Yes.
It's helped a lot of people.
Well, lots of times their arthritis has gone quite away, but they still can get rid of the radiation, and they do get some of the weight down.
This radiation, I don't care if you've got a earache or anything, aggravates it. It does help to get rid of it. It may not cure it, it may not stop it. We don't claim we're going to cure it.
No,
We say hopefully we're going to help it. We're not doctors. And people will say to us, you guarantee this going to work? And I always say to them, hey, does your attorney guarantee you're going to win your case? Does your doctor guarantee it's going to keep you alive? Oh, well, why then should we have the guarantee?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry, not done.
You had somebody.
You got two?
We have two.
I never saw that one.
Go ahead.
What's this?
No, is he finished? Yeah. Oh, okay. I have a question in terms of, do some properties have more recurrences than others? In other words, there are some areas that we found that stay few or just don't tend to have that kind of vortex activity, and others that have a multiple recurrence?
Some have an occurrence, especially with the full of the moon. We do it on occasions. Usually, when we pour, they usually stay played. Sometimes we have not the ones we've done, but new ones that have to show up. Not too often, but it does, like we've had. And like he was just mentioning about dowsing and all, don't go out and try this stuff mentally or anything else until you learn to do it with a valve, or learn to move water lanes. Don't go out and mess with this, because you may get yourself into more trouble. We're speaking about women being kind of agitated, and it's just like a queen bee. Any beekeepers here? You ever have an ugly hive?
Yeah, I don't know.
You ever check under the hive to see if you had cross water mains or bad radiation?
No, but it will.
I'll bet you that
You have now.
you got cross water. Question what's there?
What about plants?
Plants, yes, and trees too. In fact, I was checking the other day, my daughter called my attention to our Christmas trees. I had a tree farm, by the way, and the needles were starting to go. And 2 trees, and one of those lines was probably this wide, was going dead center right between those 2 trees. So I got rid of it. Then we find, on the blueberries, we find a lot of some little caterpillars like this. I had it about 2 or 3 years ago. I find the radiation line, I move it, the next day they're gone. So anytime you've got a problem with someone, lady here mentioned she had used the French coral, we thought we better with that, on 2 different apple trees. One of them was beautiful, and the other one had died. And I told her the best thing in problem, check the tree, because she may have bad radiation going on the tree. Very likely she has. Good.
But bear out what he said when you're first starting out on this, it's well to ask a question before you do anything about it. Am I going to harm anything else? There might be a water vein there that you need or something that you could possibly move. I had a call probably 2 or 3 years ago from Nebraska, and this guy said, the first thing he said on the phone, I'm in a hell of a mess. And I said to him, well, I guess probably you've got trouble with a woman or something. He said, no, worse than that. He said he had got a call from this gentleman about 100 miles away, and he said, I understand that you can take iron out of a well. And the fellow said, yeah, I guess so. Well, he says, I'd like to have you come down. How much would it be? He said, $100. Well, I'd like to have you come down, take it out. Well, he went down, and after he got there, the well that he was working on only had 1 big thing. So, he picked up the iron. It was in that same 1 big thing. So he took an iron bar, he hit it, swooped right over here. Got his $100, and he went home, and the telephone was hot, and the guy called, and he said, hey, my well's dry. And he said, what am I going to do? And I said, well, you better do something. And I said, is there anyone around there that dowses? And he said, yeah. And I said, by the way, how long have you been dowsing? He said, 6 months. And I said, you doused any wells? He said, yes, 2. Did you get any water? No. Well, I said, I would say probably you need a little more experience before you go fooling around with this. Now I said, get a pencil and paper and you write down exactly as I tell you. I said, you go back to that place, you get this other guy knows what he's doing, and you go back to this place, and you knock it this way, you knock it right back in, the whole thing. And you stay there until water is coming, and they can run that pump. He's very good about it. 3 weeks later he called and he said, I'm back and I done exactly as you said. You knock this back. Then you follow this back up. Concentrate. Where's the iron coming? Up here. And I said, you follow, when you get there, ask for a diversion point to get rid of that iron, and then the direction to go, it gets you out of trouble. And he said he went back, he got it in, and they got the iron out, the guy was happy, and he said, the old timer's going to show me how it does. I said, that's the best news I've ever had.
So that's the problem you can get go out if you haven't done much out and do what we're trying to show you here. Anyone else with anything before we go on?
What time is it?
When you divert it, it seems so fast. Can you just imagine it with a second that it's diverted?
You understand, we've been doing this for quite a few years, plus water and all. And we've been down with it for 25 years now. And we do a lot of it. And it isn't something you do real quick stuff. And after you do get on to it in a few years, then it becomes second nature more or less.
We probably, right now, we're doing more diversions than we are locating. We have probably got under our belt 3,700 diversions. Water, and radiation, and so forth. And believe me, we've had very, very fine reports on it. It's worked. But be careful. He said we've been down for 25 years. Well, I want to tell you something. He's more than 40 years old. He better add another 20, 25 on it.
Real extensively we've been at it. We've been down for a long time. Someone else had something like that?
No, I wanted to ask if when it was stuck in hot in before, and now the air seems to be able to circulate when the cube, was that a symptom? The stuffing hot?
Well, let's hope it was. Unless the wind started blowing at the same time. But you should actually, you noticed the difference, didn't you? Yeah. See, I don't feel those things too much. I don't think anybody do, but some people do.
Two different times. When I told you about, and then 2 minutes after that, it shifted.
It should have made a difference to those people.
Well, you do. The people look brighter, Rollie.
Yeah, they look better.
They were getting kind of sleepy. I don't mean that you were looking stupid. You look brighter. I mean you were getting a little sleepy. Most of you know, I lost about 75% of my eyes.
You find if we get it outside the house where it's coming in, kind of a diversion point, you're good. We can get into some of this diversion a little later on.
I was wondering when you're diverting a vein of salt to the water, you find exactly like demonstrated the diversion point, not the number, the depth that you put your bar in, and the number, that doesn't matter?
No, just get it in the ground. That was the direction that you should divert it and tack your bar a couple times.
And if there's only one vein going in, there's only one diversion point.
Right. You're concentrating on if you want this vein to move in that direction and never bother anyone or anything else again.
Well,
yes.
Tell them about the crosswater vein at the top of the tower and how the water was suddenly for the trophy come on from there. Do you remember?
Oh, yes, up the house there, yes. Yeah, we take the radiation out of the house. We went down to see what this tower, and I mentioned to the lady that the water wasn't good either. This happens quite often when we go to a place. We find bad water. So we found the bad water, and you said it was coming soaking from.
Just that morning, the water before you arrived, their water tasted soapy.
Right.
Another indication that it was on.
Yeah, I know before we left that everything was fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it run and you could taste it.
I have a rather personal problem. I have a lady friend over in New Hampshire. She had water in her driveway every spring. So I took this iron rod and my sledgehammer over there, and I diverted the water. I don't have any water in the driveway. Her neighbor's cellar was all full of water. How do I get the water out of her neighbor's cellar back in her driveway?
Well, he used to have the water program business, see, his son has it now. And we used to go out nights.
I'm not kidding you.
Rather than the cellar, see. You got, your neighbor's got water in the cellar?
Yeah.
Well, all right, just take your bar and walk around the cellar and ask where the water is that is coming into the cellar. Any water that's going in the cellar. And when you find it, follow it, say, I want to know the very best diversion point, put your bar in, give me the point of diversion, and knock it out of the way.
I can use you two fellows, I think. The houses are very close together. The three houses in the road. I don't know. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This is one of the
There's a house down here back of the Masonic Hall on the left is a bungalow, and there's a Scooties are living down there. Yeah. And we had there's 2 stories of that place. And, in that house there's one of these circles, and we find this sometimes. And boy, that thing is hot. It's not related to water or anything else, but you couldn't douse of it, and I could get the feel of it. Well, I'm telling you about it. So then there were some more people interested, so we're going back down to look at it and get down to the damn thing that cloud had moved it, not from the breeze. And it's never come back. Gone. What the heck was the other one I was going to bring up?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was going to say, you saw my pepper plant problem, because I had them all in a row. And one was to use with this curling. Now I know a lot about plant feeding. I did everything with this plant. I finally gave up. And about 3 weeks later, it's blooming like the rest of them. And it must have, now I just checked now and there were veins on it. It disappeared.
Did you move them? Did you move them?
No, they might have gone on their own. I didn't know that much about it. I just gave up the plant. And now it's after blooming.
They might have gone on their own, yeah.
No, the veins just disappeared.
Well, let me tell you about this house. The gentleman was in my class when we had the school here. And I was showing him how to divert veins around the house, water and salt like that. So he wrote to me a month or 2 later, and he said that one of them owned the house. He told me since we left there, he left it, he says, hey, I need water in the basement. So we must have done something right.
I had a waterproofing company for about 20 years, and used to put piping on the basement floors and so forth and so on. And before I got the job done, I didn't do this ahead of time, believe me, because you didn't get much money that way. But I'd always make diversions afterwards, oftentimes at home. And I'd pick up these heavy water mains coming in, and go around this house. Might be 8 gallons a minute coming in inside the house, and only 4 going out here. The rest of it, squeeze not through. You can kill that out there. Never got any callbacks. And the house is bone dry. And we made some diversions. I don't remember the houses up here. We've diverted 2 or 3 houses up here. Never had a drop. We did it to this store down here, and it was quite amusing. We knocked it out the store, and it was just a little weeny trickle. And the guy told us about it, and it was a big crowd the day we did it. And this was early the next morning, and we found where this little dinker was coming in there. So Rollie and I was over there getting it ready, and he was standing out there. Several people come along and said, thought you took this out yesterday. I said, we did, but he wouldn't pay us, so we're going to put it right back in. The guy looked at him and said, he would too.
He never did pay us, did he?
No. He didn't even go with Tona.
Down up here on the hill where they're doing all that construction up here, we filled that well up there with water. No problems, yeah.
Did you divert a vein on the vertical plane? Let's say you want to divert a vein, let's say that's good water, 100 feet, but your casing is 150. Can you bring the vein down to the bottom of the casing? Like
You mean your vein is higher than the...
Yeah, higher or lower.
I don't know. We never have, unless it hit the casing and we go down and go in.
Which I question why they probably would.
It might very likely could. You could always ask that question, if I divert this in the direction, give me the right direction, and would it go in the well? That's the way I do it. You ask questions right straight through. You don't take anything for granted. That's all. Not with this.
Any more questions?
One
Yes, you have one here. You've got a question, sir?
No, she has one there, the girl in the green dress.
Can you divert the iron out of the regular water supply.
Yes, if it's coming in directly into the well or into the site, we do that a lot.
Okay.
We do that a lot.
I want to add that we're getting all over the country, apparently, a lot of earth movement. There's been water veins that we have played with for 20 years. Knew they were there, heavy veins and so forth, they're gone within the last 7 or 8 months. We had some thermal veins that we were watching, they disappeared. And they've been there for 18 or 20 years or more. And there's been a lot of changes. And an awful lot of, we've been getting a lot of calls of iron and sulfur going into wells that have been in existence for 40, 50 years with no problem. And we've been called, excuse me, get rid of that. And we've been very successful.
You divert water into a pond that doesn't have very little runoff, only when it's raining.
If there are any veins available, year-round veins, yes, we've done that several times.
They got to be compatible in depth.
And they got to be year-round veins. Many times you only have seasonal, so you always want to ask for year-round.
Have you, how long have you noticed this earth movement bit? How long have you noticed the earth movement bit?
Probably in the last year and a half. And I believe Kyle would verify there's been a lot of movements out of California.
Well, out there, they had the World Series quake a couple of years ago. The Santa Cruz area is where it was centered at.
Yeah.
People had lost their wells, other people got artesian wells out of it, very little water in the first place. It just changed the whole water structure in that whole area.
Well, you remember the 2 wells we went up and down?
Oh, yeah.
When they, yours is slid when they got round to it 6 or 8 months later, right?
Right.
No, there's been a lot of movement, and some of you younger people are going to see some of the worst earthquakes they've ever had around here. And I would predict that we got some pretty serious ones coming in New York City.
Well, I successfully moved the iron out of my well, out of my vein to a neighboring vein which was not servicing anybody's house.
Well, now wait a minute. To a neighboring vein. You say you want to put it into a neighboring vein?
There is a vein running along. I live in the woods. There was 2 veins of water. One vein going to my well, and another vein running alongside about 60 feet away from my well. Walking up into the woods, I diverted the iron out of one vein and into the other. The vein that I diverted the iron into was not servicing any homes or businesses or nothing. It was going straight into the river. So that was okay, the water sweetened right up. The problem I've got now is the iron bacteria. You know, the iron bacteria that gels the water?
You got a note to it?
No.
You may have another one that you missed.
Okay, 'cause I asked the question yesterday and they just told me to dump Clorox bleach
They
down.
always tell you that.
Is there any other way?
We'll draw it up and see.
How many veins you got? One right here?
Yeah.
All right, she should have another one right in here, Rollie.
Right there, this one.
Okay. Now, is this the one that's bringing in iron?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me where it's coming in.
Right there.
Okay. Now, is that iron? Tell me if I go across.
Right there.
Okay. The iron is way over here. It's feeding that. Now, you people back here, I'm sorry that you can't see me, but there. Now, can you get a peek at that? Get over here. This is her well. These are the feed veins. And this is the iron right here. The iron would be coming in like this and coming in here. We want to get rid of this. So we ask for diversion point back here. And then out here, I would believe it should go to the left, but maybe not.
You're right on it then.
Right here?
Yeah.
Should it go to the left?
Wrong goes to right.
Okay. We'll knock it out this way. That's sure, cut that off so that this will be clear water. But you've got to put Clorox or something in there,
So
probably.
that's in the Clorox?
Yeah, put a gallon right in there. Now, when you do this, do it at night. And turn every faucet on so that you clear your faucets too. And they're flushed. And then leave it overnight. And the next day, pump the daylights right out of it. And let it run. And that'll clear this up.
So you can take your rods and
So
follow
does the water just run right out of the house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right on your
Do I
lawn.
feed the water back into the well?
No.
Get rid of it.
If you can't check for bacteria or anything, you can get rid of that Clorox. But you can stand on that well and find the feeder vein, and if that vein is the one that's got the iron
What about the angle
stuff,
that comes in after
then
like that?
follow the veins. I want to know when this vein becomes good drinking water. Then you'll have a very good problem. Find the problem, follow it down, good.
Thank you.
You get rid of salt in the same way?
Yeah. Same way.
We hear calls from some of these filtering companies that their systems will not completely take care of it, and they tell those people to get rid of those, to get a hold of those two idiots. And he said they probably can do it. He said, I don't know how, but get a hold of them.
Someone down south that
Yeah.
found some bad water, but they didn't know about diverting it. They told us to put corks under the bed or move the chairs around. Is that something we should do, or is there?
I don't know anything about that. I find, what they say to put around caulk? I'd go out and find the bad vein and make a diversion. That's what I have to do.
You work in New York State on your map?
Yeah, also.
Get your phone number.
Sure.
How would you take care of a farm area where they put in nitrates in the ground? You couldn't?
Next to impossible.
Okay.
Next to, I know what you mean, because the found that it was tested water. It's like, it's just like an old farm where you got a manure pile, years and years old, that whole ground is saturated. It just seems to stay saturated. You know. Anybody else who was one of them?
Do you work in Ohio? Do you work as far as Ohio?
Yeah, if you want to pay us to go out there, we'll do it. 2 round of tickets.
And you work from here?
Yeah, oh yes, oh yes. Oh yes. No problem. We will, in the next session, we may have time to draw out some of these and show you. Okay, we go here on the, this is our electrical loop, we call it. You'll find these running off lines that have transformers. Remember, we worked on this one over here a few years ago, where Paul had this meter. You can, they'll come down the ground wire on these poles that have the transformers, and they'll go off 100 or so feet, and they make a big loop right around, and they'll kind of vary back and forth, 27 seconds or so, or something. 37 and goes back and forth. Now, you can put a magnet on that ground line, kilowatts. Or, I think we did out here, we stuck right on his galvanized it. 2 rods we did, yeah. Now, we got stuff one day, and it was all blacktop. And we wanted to get it out of this guy's house. And we put the bar down, opened the black, we didn't drive it in, we did it almost mentally, and right across the thing moved.
Yeah, we done that 2 years ago, and it went into the highway about 14 feet, made a loop, come right back, and went up the pole again. And it's still there right now.
No, we checked it, still right there.
Nobody's had any plans going over it.
No. We don't have too much problem. We don't want to cause too much problem with this electrical.
What do you do if the power line, from the power line to the house? Enter the house here. You have to struggle, or you have that.
The power line to the house,
Power line, you see it sideline got to the house. How you handle that?
What, handle what?
What is she saying?
The lead of the loop, well, we don't usually get a loop there, we get the loop from the transformer on the pole. It's usually where we get the loop. You know what the transformer is?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's where we usually find the loops on those poles, where they're on the ground. See that, the electricity going down the ground.
You're even there, you know?
Yeah.
You're even there. Well, it's on a public road. That one children have been passing by there. Or another thing or whatever it is.
Well, as long as it's not bothering anything, we don't touch it. As long as it's not bothering.
Is this loop connected together?
Yeah, and it goes, it gyrates back and forth, electricity. When you take a transformer over there, it's just the other side of the post office. Take your rod and go over there, and you find them going over there. I don't think we killed that thing, but I think it's still there. Yeah. Now, what do we got here? We've got, this is on 293 foot ERV, potency of 81. This is shaped like a sword. And,
It's only 10 feet long.
yeah, we think there's lead involved with this.
This goes in your house. This went into Rollie's house.
Yeah,
In the
that's right.
bathroom fixture. Turned the shaft right in, then went right back out through the building again outdoors.
Hit the copper and gone straight out. We don't find that too often. This one here is 433 foot. This is not a vortex bed. This is more of an oblong shape. And that's pretty potent too. That has a 91 potency. And this one here is a 51 foot with a potency of 62. This is dry. This is an oblong shape, 51 feet deep and 20 foot long. We do it the way. We're not in the business of selling books, but we have made up some books covering all these things if anybody is interested in buying it. We're not in the money-making business. We're selling, it costs us about $5, and that's what we're selling for, to get in front of that. If you're interested in this at all.
Believe me, if I had time involved there, these things would be about $50 or $60 a piece at least.
Yeah, that's for sure. This one here is 51 feet deep, and this is a pyramid shape. Find that pyramid shape on the ground. It's interesting when you find these things, take it down and rods and say, I'd like to know how the shape of these things go, and follow them out. You know, if you want something to do. And this one here spreads about 30 foot wide, and that's pretty potent too, 83 feet. This one here is a rectangular one, has 300 feet. And it spreads about 35 feet. The runs a rectangle about 8 by 16 feet. See, when you find those things, and then you look for your diversion point, and usually it will take you quite often in a strip in between where it's heading to the houses. For some reason, these things spread out when they hit a house.
When you show on your back, you show the little line coming, and it all spreads out.
Yeah, that's...
Now, when you're inside, would you still be able to find the little line?
No, because it spreads when it hits the house, just like he was showing them here. That's covered this pressure, this whole area. We don't know what we're talking about, really. So we're just saying what we find.
But inside there, you are not finding the same line.
No. It spreads out when it hits the house. So it's covering the whole area.
Walk down the aisle, it's right there.
Well, yes, he found the center. He also found the edge here, and the other edge was up there. He found the other edge, it was outside. It was outside. He didn't quite get to the other edge.
The other edge, if I remember right, outside, this thing would have been a round circle. No, I'm sorry. This thing would have been about 85 feet long, deep rather. It's 85 feet long and it's 16 inches wide. And this is what we call the sight line. That's the real potent one. And that's what's been out here. Probably the head of this one was next to the brick. It was right next to the brick in front. That's where this started.
See, we never work inside of the house. You don't have to. We find them when they're coming in from the outside and we can do all of the business up there.
I have one of these sidewinders that has been there for 2 months now, and the tail end of it's right up against my house. It's not giving off anything, because this is the wrong end. The other end is over across from my neighbors. Not at their house, didn't affect them. So I've left it there over 2 months now, and I want to see what the life of it is. And I guess that probably this thing could go a year, and we'll see. It isn't harming.
Well, what about the people that show you the lines where the beds are, where they have the bed? They say, okay, we're going to move the bed because here's a line of water going under it, here's a line.
Well, that's right. You can do that too. That's like this book that I have here. In fact, we sell it to the open supply. Lady in Austria wrote, and it's a very nice book. And she's doing in fact exactly what we've been doing. Only she is moving the beds and things like that. And last year, when we were going to give a talk on this, I wasn't here at the time. I couldn't make it. And he mentioned about the book I was reading, and this gentleman came up to him afterwards and said that he was from Austria and he knew this lady very well. And he said, she's going to be surprised when I tell her that you fellows know how to get rid of this stuff. And she had hundreds of documented cases that she had done, and it was, and all she did was have them move their beds and move their, where they worked in their office and things like that. So,
I just wanted to ask her on the labor point that she would show that the little line would go like this, and she would not think that it was spreading out, because if it had been spreading out, then there wouldn't have been any place to use there.
well, she was probably finding the center, maybe getting away. Another thing we used to do years ago, we used to put a bar, metal bar, or copper wire under the bed, and that would get rid of it. Well, then we discovered that we weren't getting rid of it. All it was doing was reflecting it out into the rooms on both sides. See, we weren't killing it all together, just putting it into somebody else's room. We did that for quite a while, remember? That was the first time we got into it. This way here, and outside, we clear the house. Until we can find something better, that's the way we're going to do it.
I wanted to ask if these electric relay stations, there's one about, say, a city block away, do they give off a lot of problems in this information?
Well, they probably do. We haven't run across them.
Can it come as far as the city block?
This, I really don't know too much about electricity. In fact, anything about electricity, I stay away. I don't have nothing to do with it.
It was quite interesting. Terry Ross called me about 2 weeks ago, and he said he got this call from this woman in England, and she said she had a problem that Christine had a real lame leg. He wanted to know if by any chance she'd heard about this diversion deal, if she had any bad things going in there. And Terry checked it, and he said, yes, you have. He says, I'll see if I can get rid of it. Well, about a week later, she called back again, and she said, oh, Christine is much better. Well, he says, where is she now? Well, she's out in the pasture, kicking up her heels and swinging her tail. So, let's get into these things. And I had a lady that in Florida that called, and the dog had been moping around, and her house was loaded, and the dog was very old. And I diverted this stuff, and she said that dog was just like a 6-month-old puppy running all through the house and jumping on the divan. She said, what the hell did you do to that dog? She just couldn't believe it. So it's a lot of things you can do with it.
If you put through the exercise, how you want the potency, say, at 1.9.
All right. You take, in your mind here, we're going to use 20, just be it very, very unhelpful, we'll say, or bad. So you take, is this particular thing, is this got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 4, 6, 8, 32, 4, 6, 8, 42, 4, 6, 8, 50, 1, 2. This is the way you count it. When they get straightened out, you count it. It's just like counting debts. gallonage or anything. Are you familiar with that? How many of you people, by the way, really have done some dowsing? Have you been, how many have been successful with water, for instance? Okay. How many have done 25 wells? Well, you know, last year when I asked this, I think it was one person. So we have got better this year. I think it's 2 or 3. So we're improving. This fellow I know is not capable of dowsing. They just let him out a couple of weeks ago in California. He's been in the house.
Okay, we're almost at the breakdown. We're almost done with these anyway, pretty much. And then we'll get on to some.
We'd like to get on to some real honest to goodness diversion, and so that you'll come up with some questions of why we did this, or how we did it, or so, which we haven't showed you yet. And I hope you'll come back in when you know, get a stretch of leg.
This one here is 600 foot. This is very close. It runs about 125, and it comes up out of the ground like a sword. Varies from 600 feet.
If any of you people would like to have any of these books, we have them here. We have the pictures of what these things look like and the whole bit.
It's about time for what we call a quick